Hi, Kelly.
Hi, Caitlin.
It's so nice to be back.
It is. It is my favorite day of the month.
Yes, absolutely.
Filming day.
Filming day, talking day,
I
podcast
know.
day.
I know. But it's just like fun to hang out with you.
I
Fun
know.
to see you.
Yes, and happy birthday, belated a day.
Thank you.
Yes,
29.
29. That's what I think my parents always used to say, or my dad,
Yeah.
like 25 again, yeah. And as a kid, I was like, oh, that's old.
I know. I know.
And now it's like,
I remember when I was like 21 and I had a 25-year-old friend and I was like, oof.
yeah.
Now I'm like, eesh.
Ooh, here we are.
But no, feels
Yeah.
good. I'm 40.
Yeah.
40.
Big 40.
It is a big, it's a
You
big
know
one.
what they say about your 40s. It's
What?
the new 30. I don't know. What do they say?
They say something? What
They,
is
they
it?
say something good. It's
Yeah.
always good.
No. Feels the same-ish.
Yeah. No, it'll be a good decade.
It'll be.
Yeah.
It'll be. I'm wiser. Kind of.
Yes, we think we are.
Yeah.
Anywho, let's talk real estate.
All right.
We're going to talk about listing presentations today.
Yes.
And as we're all aware, for pretty much everywhere in the country, like listings are a tough gig right now.
Yeah. But remember when the market was insane and I used to be like, "Ugh, all I want is listings.
Yeah.
And now I'd kill for a buyer.
Yeah, exactly.
like-
Funny how that changes.
Yeah, I know.
I'm always on the wrong side of history, though.
Yeah,
Like,
I
I never got listings when the market was hot, and I always had buyers, and we were
Mm-hmm.
writing 50 offers, and now I have all of the listings and
Yes.
none of the buyers. So thank you, real estate gods.
I know.
But it's important. So the funny thing that I think about all the time, right, especially in this market, is like it's so important to have a great listing presentation
Mm-hmm.
and like be prepared to get the listing. But then sometimes deep down, I'm like, maybe I don't need this one.
I know.
You know?
I know. So I think we should definitely cover that today. Let's talk about our listing presentations. What we're going to talk about our listing presentations, what they look like now, how they have evolved,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like they're ever changing. You know, you're always getting new ideas, and then you
Like
know,
what we should be putting in our listing presentations today, whether that be like because of the market or whether it be technology that we have access to
Yeah.
or just kind of like the point in time, like what's working in listing presentations today.
that and managing expectations is
Yeah.
going to be just
Yeah.
more important than ever. I mean, it's always important,
Mm-hmm.
but it's really going to be a gut check for a lot of sellers
Yeah.
because we're seeing a stalemate here
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of markets.
Yeah. And you have to be honest up front to save yourself time. I just shared a story about this on my TikTok that like I had to tell, I went to a listing appointment. I definitely, like, I have not heard from the seller since. It's been 3 weeks. I've checked in twice. So obviously wasn't too
So,
pleased.
looks like you might get it.
Yeah. Yes, I'm hoping. But I was honest with her. I was like,
Yeah.
listen, like, I know you want this price. I really don't think you're going to get that price. And I don't want to waste your time. And she also had already been on the market in the spring. Unfortunately, priced too high in the spring with an agent that told her it would sell in 2 weeks, which I don't know why
that's
anyone would
cute.
have ever quoted that even in the spring, but
Yeah.
they did. Priced too high, didn't sell in 2 weeks, shocker, stayed on the market longer.
Yeah.
And then she took all the feedback from all the showings and did everything, like big work, like remodeled the kitchen, new AC unit, like did a lot of stuff.
Yeesh.
So of course now the expectation is I've now put all this work into it. I should be able to list for higher than where I was last time. And the problem is you were already overpriced the first
Yeah.
time around.
Yep.
So the difference in what she would need to list for to get sold in this market is pretty significant, and
Yeah.
she's dumped thousands of dollars into it. So that was a tough conversation. Understandable that she's not giving me a call back.
Yeah.
But I'm also not going to waste my time, you know,
Or money.
or money, and it would be a waste of her time. And
Yeah.
I'm just, you know, you've got to be honest with that. And sometimes turning down business is like the better way to go.
And I forget who said it. One of like the big dogs said years ago, and I've kind of always carried it with me that sometimes it's better to be the second listing agent or even the third.
Yes. That's a good point.
So, maybe you won't get it on the first round, but don't burn bridges. You know, don't give the middle finger when you don't get the listing, and then maybe you'll pick it up if it doesn't sell because somebody
Yes.
was okay with them testing the market and all that.
That's a really good point. Actually, some of my most successful listings have been those that I've taken over from an unsuccessful agent. Not that it was probably even the agent's fault. It was just that they
Yeah.
didn't, they weren't honest with them
Yeah.
about price and expectations, and it wasn't successful.
Yeah.
But it's so much easier to have an honest conversation with the seller at that point and come in and be
Yeah.
like, listen, here's all the things that were wrong. Here's what we need to do if
Yeah.
you want to get it sold.
They're more coachable.
Much more coachable, and you can kind of lay into them a little bit more,
Yeah.
like without them being offended, because they're
Yep.
like, listen, I've got to get this done, tell me what we got to do.
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah, how has your listing presentation, I guess, like, take me back to the beginning, like, what did your listing presentations look like in the beginning?
Long ago.
Long ago.
Long ago. Well, what listing presentation? I was like, I don't know. I don't.
Flying
you
by the
don't
seat of
know
your
what you
pants.
don't know, right? And I flew by the seat of my pants a little bit back then, and it served me to an extent. But when I wanted to really like level up and be listing heavy, and I didn't have. I had more bandwidth to have plates spinning, and I don't have that anymore. I have a family now. I have, I've got a million things going on in my life. So I can't have like the noise and the chatter. So by trying to get rid of that, you need systems, right? So I implemented systems, and then with systems, you can handle a larger workload. So, I used to not really have a flow, and I mean, it still takes work. I still get off track at listing appointments, right? But as far as what it looked like in the beginning, just a lot of note taking, kind of just, I didn't quite, things were different then. Like listings didn't really sit that long, so I didn't need to bring out all the stops, as long as, I could speak confidently to the pricing and, my competence and my level of communication. I usually got the listing. Now it's not like that.
Yeah.
It's much more of a saturated market. So what it looks like now is, do you want me to walk you through what mine looks like now?
Sure.
Is that
Yeah,
kind of
give us all
helpful?
your secrets.
So ring ring. Let's pretend it's someone I don't know. Kelly, found you on Google. We'd love for you to come look at our house. I hit pause and I say, oh, I love that. And I try and set the appointment.
Yeah.
I cannot on the fly tell someone what their house is worth.
Oh, no,
as
no,
much
no.
as people want that.
Yeah.
They want me to punch out like it doesn't work like that. It's what's it look like? What's your motivation more than anything? Because that plays into the strategy. Like if you are being relocated within the next 2 weeks, the strategy is going to look much different than, we're not sure what we want, but, we're downsizing and, we're open to areas, but we need to sell first to buy. And, you have more dominoes that need to fall, you know? So much of that will change. So first and foremost, what I always try and do is I don't try and have a long conversation on the phone when somebody calls me to set a listing appointment. A lot of times what I do is, oh, that's so great. Like, we do the chit chat thing. I give a couple times and dates. Does this work for me to come by and let's talk about what's going on and your situation, and you can show me the house and I can give you an idea of price. And then I say we set it for Tuesday, whatever. I also follow up by saying, I'm going to follow this up with a text message that is a link to my seller intake form. It's going to have some questions on there so that I can prepare appropriately for the appointment, right? It's going to ask them what improvements they've made, because sometimes there might not be an old MLS listing to look at. Maybe it's a new build, things like that. But it's going to ask for a list of improvements. It's going to ask what their payoff is, what their interest rate is, and
love that.
things that I can do to generate a net sheet so that they can see what they'd walk away with at certain, price thresholds.
Where is that? Is that linked to a Google form, or where do you have that?
I have it
fill
as a
out?
jot form.
A jot form. Okay.
And then what Marlon, my assistant, does is it automatically sends to him. He takes that information. It also asks for like preliminary info, like what their name is, what their spouse's name is.
Yeah.
That way I'm not like referring to your husband or, you know what I mean, your
Yeah.
partner, or, I know who the players are.
Yeah.
I have their cell phone. I know if they are capable of text messaging. If,
Yeah.
Their preferred email, things like that. That way I'm not chasing down all those things. It just makes me look very professional from the jump,
Yeah.
right?
I'm stealing this idea.
Yes.
And in fact, I feel like we should share this if you are willing.
Happy to.
And we could
Yep.
put this in the show notes of like what you have in your intake form.
Yep. And then this is the juicy part. What I
Okay.
do is if they are local, because it also obviously asks the home address, I will same day or next day, depending on the time that they called me, I have a package couriered to their house.
Nice.
It has my listing guide in there. It has like about me, all that. I throw in some swag, things like that.
Nice.
And I will typically also put in it an RPR report, which is like our realtor's Zestimate, if you will. And I put on it with a giant Post-it, this is just a ballpark. What it does, I feel like, is it kind of scratches that itch that they had. And it also, like, so that I can get a temperature check when I meet them in person, kind of where they were comparatively on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But it gives them that answer that they're like dying to have. But it also, I've also set the appointment for that follow up.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
great.
And I also never talk, people always want to know what's your commission. We don't talk, I don't, on that initial phone call, I don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, that's a conversation that we have in person. I'm not negotiating like on an upfront phone call when I've never even met you in person. I've never seen your house, all that.
Yeah.
So I don't say it like that, obviously. It's a little bit more tactful.
Yeah.
But I follow up with that couriered package to their door. Usually it's pretty impressive because it gets there same day or next day. And then I have the appointment.
Nice. That's really good for like pre-listing.
Yep.
And you have all the info that you need ahead of time. And I also think it like helps you to know if the seller is serious or not, if they're going to fill out that form.
Yep.
Like if not, then there's potential that they're going to cancel on you or they're whatever. So,
Yeah.
and that's the last thing you want.
Well, I can also see how guarded people are. And I also, I preface it on the phone call like, hey, this is why I'm asking those questions. Like, people might feel like, oh, that's so invasive, what my payoff is.
Yeah.
But I tell them, like, this helps me get you a net sheet so you can see what you'll walk with.
Yeah.
It's not just like me, collecting sensitive information.
Right.
But also, there's nothing, when I get to people's homes, I don't want them getting up and down from the chair to, oh, I have my payoff. Hold on, it's in my desk.
I know that's
on
the
my
worst, right?
on my my last bill. Let me pull that up. I want you sitting, and I want this a conversation because a conversation that doesn't last longer than it needs to, because I do think people get fatigued with these kind of conversations, and I don't like to go over an hour at the in-person listing appointment.
No way.
People want me out of their kitchen,
Yeah. Yeah.
or it's either it's
Or I want
it's
out of
two
their
extremes, or or people want, I think people sometimes can be maybe a little bit lonely, or they don't, they just love to gab.
Yeah.
And I mean, I had a listing appointment with a widow that lasted for 3 hours.
Oh, no.
And I couldn't, she was lovely and I
Yeah.
enjoyed my time there, but I can't give 3 hours to a single appointment. And I blame myself.
It's hard in
And
those
sometimes
situations.
it's just, the conversation goes where it needs to go, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was
Yeah.
a little bit more of a sensitive thing. There was a little bit more tears
lot of
involved and all
emotion.
of that.
Yeah.
We're dealing with something very personal, and it was very fresh.
Yeah.
But, in order for me to do my best presentation, my best work, I need to hit certain bullet points, and I need to be there for an hour, and then I need to go home, go back to my office and, work some more on it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I think there's so many different ways you can do this. So if I read the book, so obviously Never Split the Difference is an amazing book.
That's a good one.
There's a
Yeah.
second book that he wrote, and I can't remember who he partnered with to write it in real estate. And it is one of the things that they talk about in that book is don't stop doing free consulting.
Yeah.
Stop going to listing appointments and wasting your time. And so it's interesting. It's a whole different, and I like it. It's like, do it on Zoom or do it over the phone or whatever, but don't go to someone's house, spend an hour plus not knowing what kind of situation you're getting, if you're even going to take
Yeah.
the listing, if they're even going to hire you, doing all of this free consulting for them, because oftentimes you start walking through their house and they're like, well, how would you stage this? And you start
Oh, yeah.
becoming a stager for them, and then next thing you know, they never even call you back when you follow up, and you're like, well, you're freaking welcome.
That was last year for me.
It's so bad.
I had a series, because I used to kind of freely give my vendor list in that initial appointment, or in that initial appointment,
Yeah.
/ at one point I was just giving it with my
Your
courier
package.
with my pre-listing, because I'm thinking like, oh, I want to be the source of, and of course ultimately I'm happy my referral partners are getting the business. That's what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to safeguard things, but what I was having was a series of me doing the consultations. What would I do? Who would I use? This is what it needs. I will send you the paperwork to sign, and they would either not sign it, and then, or they'd hire someone else, and then I'd look at the listing photos, and it would be everything I said,
Yeah.
including my pricing strategy.
Yeah, I know. And that's what they say is like, don't do a whole like pricing strategy for someone and like spend all this time and then have them just go with someone else. So I find that interesting. Also, on your note about commission, I know that is like the tried and true, like that is the guidance of all time is like, don't talk about it on the phone. I do talk about it on the phone when people ask. I don't bring it up, but if someone is saying, I will only pay X, only pay 2 bananas, and that's all I can afford, I'm not going to say like, okay, well, let's talk about it in person. I had that happen. I had someone call me for a listing in Surprise, which is not really my service area
yeah.
anyway. They wanted to basically get as low as they could on the compensation, and they wanted to know my fee, and I told them that whatever I charge, and they were like, yeah, well, we're never going to pay that. And I was like, well, the reason is because I'm full service and these are the things I offer. And so I give them a little sprinkle of like all of that. But I'm not going to waste my time. Like if you are just like dead set on like, this is the number because of this reason.
Yeah.
I don't need to change your mind on that. And I know people have a difference in opinion in that. And many people would say, no, take the appointment, show them like the value, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. I think there's a lot of people out there that will never see the value, never care. And I'm not going to waste my time, especially in something that's like not in my backyard, to go try to convince them otherwise.
Yep.
So sometimes I do think it's good to get compensation out on the phone, because there are
a good
those
point.
people that have that. Yeah. Because, you get there and they're like, ooh, yeah, we could only, like, we're
Yeah.
never going to do that. Like, we're
We
not
were
paying
thinking
for
you'd
full
do
service.
it for free.
Yeah.
But you would make money when you help us buy.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah. That's always the funnest one. Sure. And then you never buy.
Yeah.
But what I think is nice with a lot of the changes to the compensation is that we really can play around with numbers with the net sheet. And so that's why it's so important to talk about the net sheet before the listing appointment and or at the listing appointment at
Yep.
the very least. So you can say like, it's not about the sales price.
Yeah.
It's about what your net looks like. And if you need this much to feel good or to, you know, buy your next home, whatever it is, then my compensation falls in this bucket. Buyer agent compensation, we can negotiate.
Yep.
Right? So like now it's a little bit easier to kind of move the, you know, numbers around a bit to make it work when you know what their loan balance is, generally what closing costs are going to cost them, and it's a much easier conversation than just talking about I got to sell for 650.
So here's a question to you. What does your present day listing presentation look like, and what did you see at one point that was like, you know, because obviously, and I mean, I'll speak for myself, but you and I operate a lot alike. I mean, I didn't come up with that courier thing on my own.
Yeah.
Like, this is all stuff I've learned along the way from my elders,
Yes.
from my real estate, you know, idols.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Like, I'm following best practices of people who are crushing it. So let me close the loop on what I was trying to say. What does your current listing presentation look like? But also, what did you have that maybe you ditched along the way that like maybe worked for a little bit, doesn't work anymore, seemed flashy at the time, like it was gonna make a difference, and it didn't really play out?
Yeah, so many things. I mean, I think it's evolved over time. I had just like a bunch of papers at one time, not like an actual presentation. Now I have more of like a slide deck that I go through. I also, at one point in time, really focused on like comps and numbers, and because, you know, that's really what people are interested in. They don't really give too much of a shit about your marketing. I mean, they do because they're like, you got to sell it and whatever, but like, they just want to know what the number looks like,
Yeah.
right? So like that's the biggest piece for them. So I really focused on like comps and market data, but that also shot me in the foot because then like that's all they could think about was like the number that I told them, right? So now I've evolved to a place where, thank you to Sharon and Real Broker, getting
Yeah.
like probably, in my opinion, the best listing presentation I've ever had.
Yeah.
And I think, and it's served me very well. Like my conversion is very high at listing appointments.
Yeah.
A lot of that too is all of these are warm leads from YouTube for
Yep.
the most part. Like they've built trust with me through my videos. They know I know the market. So that helps. But the listing presentation is just so much better than it's ever been. And the way that Sharon had created it was he basically took data and every question he got from whatever it was, 200 listing appointments or something like that over time, and put in, you know, kind of created a flow of like how to go through this presentation where you're answering the questions for the seller before they ask the question.
Yeah.
Like the flow is just so natural where, and I get this too, like when I ask what questions you have, well, I think you answered everything I was going to ask you.
Yes.
So you love that, right? And so I start talking about like the team, the brokerage, how a real estate transaction works in Arizona. Then I go into marketing. I show an example of like my listing videos that I do, how they're different, why they're different, the intention of them. And then, you know, how we're going to target different groups of buyers based on the buyer profile that would buy their house. And then I go into more of the numbers. So that's when I start talking about comps, value, and market data, because it's not just the comps. I want them to understand you have 185 active listings in your market and only 20 of them in your zip code are actually under contract. Therefore, there is a ton of competition. If I'm a buyer here, I have, like, the world is my oyster. So if we do not position ourselves
More than it has been for the past
yeah.
years. Years.
And you can say it's a buyer's market all you want. It doesn't make sense to people that aren't like actually in it. So
Yeah.
when you can show the numbers and say, this is how many in just your zip code, a buyer who says,
Yeah.
I want to be in Gilbert in the school district, this is what they have to choose from for single family homes similar to yours. Therefore, like, It's going to be longer days on market, which is showing here. This is what the median looks like. We're also going to have to price competitively. So it's market data in combination with comps. And then at the end, I share a timeline. And that's one thing that I think Sharon had said was like, once you get them to like see the timeline and kind of buy in that conversation and start to like picture the timeline, you know you've got them at that point. And so I always go into the timeline like, you know, if we, you know, started this pre-listing process next week with median days on market, we'd be under contract roughly around this time, a 30-day contract, blah, blah, you're looking at closing here. How would that timeline work for you? And then they start saying like, well, do you think we could start in like 2 weeks though? Because I really need to clean up this and that. And you're like, gotcha. All right. Yep. And I never have them sign the listing contract when I'm there that day. I know.
Okay, that was my next question.
That's another thing that's like old school. Like you're an idiot if you don't do that. I don't do that.
I don't do it either.
Okay.
I feel like so even if it's not the right thing to do, I will never be someone who's pushing like, you know, if people say, where can I sign?
Yeah.
I have it ready. But I also can respect that people want to speak privately.
Yeah.
To,
Yeah.
you know,
Yep. And most
whether
times,
that's a good idea is probably it's a good idea, bad idea. But what if they're second guessing it after the fact? Like I'm not going to want to work with them anyway. Like they might as well just take the night and sleep on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. I usually know if I'm going to be sending them a listing contract or not
Yes.
when I leave there. And that's usually the like, okay, I'll get that out to you this evening when I'm home or whatever.
Yep.
Let me know if you have any questions. Or we're interviewing multiple agents. Okay, cool. Like, and if you are, I'm not going to force you. I'm not pushing a piece of paper across the table for you to
Yep.
sign right now anyway. Like, interview agents. Great.
Yeah.
I'm confident that what I shared with you is going to be a fit. And if it's not, then I'm not the right fit for you and we move on.
Do you bend in any way? Like, I'm noticing a trend where people, typically what I did is a 6-month listing agreement. I'm noticing a lot of people asking to shorten that because they're having a hard time reconciling these days on market accruing. And do you concede on that in any way if people want to do a shorter listing term, or is there room? Well, we don't even have to get into that, you know.
It depends. So it depends on the situation. So like if they're willing to price very competitively and we're in agreement on that price, I am willing to shorten the listing agreement. But it's in the data right there. Like median days on market is 60 days. Why would I take a 30-day listing? Like
Yep.
it's not. It sets me up for failure.
Yep.
And I'll tell them that. So I don't usually. I think most of the time I do 6 or 9 months. Honestly, a lot of the time people don't even look at that and realize how long it is. They're more interested in the price. And then in terms of compensation, I really don't flex unless someone is, I have created like a menu of services. And so I do have like a more kind of like budget friendly type of listing package, which is always the worst because it's always the people that are the most needy. It never turns out the way I expect it to be. It's way harder for me at a lower compensation too. So it's just like, why did I ever do this? But the idea is like, there's no frills with it. Like I'll put it in the MLS, I'll negotiate for you, I'll represent you, but like you get professional photos, but beyond that, I'm not doing social media. I'm not doing all this stuff.
But so would you say that that's something maybe you will ditch eventually, or it's not serving you in this market? Like maybe you're going to pause on offering that?
I never offer it unless I get pushback, like big pushback.
You don't offer it like...
Nope.
Okay.
They don't even know I have it. And if it comes down to like, we appreciate it, but like we feel like we don't need the video stuff. We don't need all this stuff. We're probably just going to work with someone a little more basic. Then I'm like, wait, I offer that too.
Wait.
So, and then I can share, and I have it like printed out. It's not like I'm just pulling it out of my ass. Like I have like a formal thing that says like, here's what you get with this package, whatever. And so I will do it at that point, but I never offer it up front because everyone's going to go for that. So I always pitch myself as I'm a full service agent and this is why, and this is how I function as full service, and this is the fee for that.
What's included with your, what comes standard with your...
With full service, so always a listing video that is on every social media platform. Always social media promotion aside from just the formal listing video. Professional photography, usually Twilight, depending on the price point. And then, of course, like MLS syndication, all
Yeah.
of those basics come too. Also, like email campaigns, database emails, we do that type of stuff. Advertising, Google and Meta ads.
Staging.
I don't do staging. They can pay for it if they want, but I won't pay for staging.
What if it needs staging to sell?
I'll do virtual staging
Okay.
for them, but I'm not going to get caught in a 3-month contract of like thousands of dollars and then have to renew it. It depends also on the price point. So like if it was going to be like a luxury home, maybe I
Yeah.
would consider a short-term staging for that. But again, I'm not a luxury agent.
Yeah.
We've talked about that. So
And it's not one size fits all.
No.
Like your listing presentation probably changes a little bit if it's, you're walking to someone who was a for sale by owner is now considering an agent or an investor,
yes.
a
Yeah.
flipper versus, an actual homeowner. It changes,
Yeah.
It
Does. Yeah. So, and that's all evolved over time because at one point I did offer staging as like an option. I've kind of played around with like different fees and what is included in them, but I've found the most success in just sitting with my fee for full service and not trying to do like a luxury package and
Yeah.
it's just kind of like, this is what I offer. You deserve a listing video. You deserve social media. Unless you want to pay me less, then I'm not taking additional time to do that and run
Yeah.
ads and all that stuff. But like, I think and you kind of need to do that to sell the house
Yeah,
too, right?
exactly.
Like, and it's good marketing for you anyway, right? Like every listing that I've taken at that like budget price where I say I won't do social media, I end up doing social media because it benefits me anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it's content too.
yeah, it is.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think this has been somewhat thorough. I think my piece of advice, and I'll ask you for yours, is just like go with your gut. Be honest with people. Don't be afraid to walk away from a listing
Especially in this market.
in this market. Yep. And just know it takes time and that's normal.
Yep. I'd say on my advice would be just manage expectations.
Yeah. That's good.
Don't overpromise because you will fall short
Yeah.
every time and
Yeah.
it'll end up costing you time and money.
It's huge.
Yep.
Yep.
So,
All right.
all right.
Well, till next time.
Bid you adieu.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to, if you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to hit the subscribe button. If you are listening on Spotify or Apple or wherever you listen to your podcast, be sure to, follow along and give us a review. We'd love that. It would help us push this out to more agents who can use this advice.
Yeah.
And also, if you have found something that is just like the golden ticket in your listing presentation and you're open to sharing,
Yeah.
sharing is caring.
Yes.
Please go ahead and, let us know what that is.
Save us all.
Save us all. Help us.
Yes. All right.
All right, guys. See you in the next one.